Hello, I'm Mike. I'm an ex Hells Angel member. I was a member and started the Fresno charter, and I transferred to Santa Barbara to start them up. And then I transferred back to Fresno, and that's where I left in 2011. I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Mike Lynch.
I said, man, this dude, but I had never met anybody. I was never allowed to talk, nor did I want to. But now that I have, man, I got nothing but love for that guy, his intelligence, the education that he sought to be who he is, and anything that he has something to do with. I think that I would be comfortable with joining in with him.
Yeah.
I met, I'm up in the mountains, man. I'm 5 minutes from a ski resort, but I'm in the most flawless place you could be. I'm in a place, it's in a valley, right? So all we have up here is the mountain taverns, bars, mountain life.
Yeah.
So I go up to this place I'd never been to, and I got a friend here that's hanging around the club. So anyway, I'm running around. He's showing me everything. So I walked into this place. Maybe about 60 miles from Canada, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't have got no deeper in the, so I pull up, get off the bikes, we go in there. Soon as I walk in the door, the dude that's sitting here, I knew was a Mongol. I've seen it long enough, did this, and he's sitting there, and I started for a second, and John goes, I said, go tell him to come over and talk to me, ask him if he has a minute. So sure as shit, he's an ex-member out of Southern California, and we talked, had each other beer. I've seen him 2 or 3 times since then, and hey, what's up, white boy, and big hug, and no, that I fucking, none of that shit. When he talked to me, he spoke with nothing but respect. I told him I was from Fresno, and he goes, ooh, they know. We all know Fresno is just a fucking haven for fucking mental illness. It seems like every gangster.
A lot of these guys are the same types of people. They just wear a different patch, and you're
exactly,
like,
because geographics.
Yeah, you're made to hate these people, right?
And I do. And like that guy, I said, we've run into each other. I met him about a year ago. I probably ran into him 5 or 6 times. And every time I run into him, it's nothing but good. But then I heard through the grapevine that somebody else was giving him a bad time at the place where we go and have a beer and eat food. And I told him, I said, hey, let me know. I'm not that I would jump up and this and that and the other, but I said, I'd like to be knowledgeable of who's the shithead up here and doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. Because obviously he would respect at least that you put your time in, you did this, and you obviously had to go through the bullshit. It's obvious.
Yeah.
You guys that sit back in here and you're, like I said, watch that TV show and this and that. Well, all that's just, that's a wash. This is a real deal. Go up there and shake the guy's hand, buy him a beer, and say, hey, what's up? And this guy was from Long Beach. So he was in the thick of shit, and I knew that, so I'm still friends with him. I see him, hey, what's up? Have a beer. You wanted something to eat? But no, we just had a beer, bullshit, look at each other's bikes, and that's it. No, I don't even get my heart Twitter pated. Before I do that, man, adrenaline's gushing out of my ears, and it's just what you do. All of us are like that. You just all of a sudden, situation has changed. So now my body's changing and my mind is changing. here we go again, you know.
So now the internet is a huge thing now, and I see a
Yeah.
lot of members posting pictures and different things online. There's a lot of drama going on out there with people arguing online with each other and things like that. Do you think the internet is going to be a problem with these clubs? And was it ever a rule not to go on the internet and post
Well,
pictures and where you're at
what
and things like that?
what we did, what we did was it was a rule: no live TV interviews, no private meetings with any law enforcement about anything unless it was an event that you're trying to get the logistics all taken care of, right? That's understandable. That's business. Okay. But as far as chit chatting and hey, how's your day? How's the wife and kids? No, 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 no. And then we made a rule say, look, if you want to do something and the club's involved, you got to bring it to the powers that be and let the membership go over it and see if it's a good or a bad idea. Until Sonny went to the club and asked about his book and the movie, the club agreed to it. The contract was explained, the amounts that everybody was getting and whose everybody's role was. You know, we had an attorney, we have an entertainment attorney, we have all these people, and they're all available to each and every one of us because we're members of that corporation, right? And Sonny made his deal. He was given 10 years to make the movie and write the book. So it took him about 8, you know, but there was some grumbling, you know, like as time went by and things had changed, atmospheres and peoples and all this stuff, you started noticing people getting a little upset about it. And some were very vocal. Some were very vocal, you know, and I said, wait a minute. I said, guys, I'm on the board of the corporation and all that shit. You know, I understood the contract. I read it over and over and over again. I seen what was given and the amounts that were said, but you had 10 years to complete your mission. After that, you have to rehash the issue. So Sonny went ahead and went with what was already in writing, you know, and some people had an issue with it, you know, and usually, you know how it is. It's fucking money first, ego, power. Those things all come into play, you know, and I know they're temporary and some guys get over it, but for a while there, and I just couldn't understand it. I said, he's not going to do some kind of hokey doke Tom and Jerry cartoon. You understand? I mean, and then there was issues about our patch being shown. And then there was issues about active members wearing another patch. Okay. All these things had to be hashed out, you know, and in the end, you could see who was on there, and I don't think that, well, I mean, I didn't follow it that close, but I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything that was an embarrassment to the club.
I think only one of those guys is still in the club that was on that show. Matter of fact, maybe not even any of them.
Let's see.
DL, right? Is DL still in the club? Nope. Then every single person that was on
DL had other things going. DL, and then
Rusty's not in the club no more.
But he's close enough to
Zito.
He knows. DL, I don't know, it was a couple, 3 or 4 years into the program. DL had a life-changing, altering thing. One of his son passed away.
That's terrible.
In the middle of all this, right? And I was very good friends with DL. We traveled a lot in Europe. He's just one of them guys. You know, you just can't help but like him, but you can guarantee you asked him anything, didn't have to look back and see, you consider it done. And he was that guy. And him and I, we got 2 pit bulls. You know, I had a breeder in Fresno. I got one for him, one for me. And, you know, he was just one of those guys that was very well spoken. He was a ghostwriter for a hot rod magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had his hands in a few things before all that other shit happened. And then when he started with them, he was just doing the technical advisory, you know, and then it wasn't soon after that. And then, okay, now he's got guys that he knows personally that would fit in good with the agenda in that show. And obviously they were there. I mean, what bad are you going to say about Rusty or fucking Sonny or Chuck? You know, them guys were knowledgeable. It was a job. And if you were going to get the poop, why would you not want it from the that absolutely positively knew? And they also knew the boundaries. Okay, well, okay, we'll go into this, but don't step over that line. And everybody knew that. Don't do it, because then our relationship's going to change, you know?
Were you in the club when Sonny passed?